historically, let's transition to talking a little bit about A&M.
Perfect.
Jimbo Fisher fired there at Texas A&M. Where obviously we don't know the ins and outs of this program in particular. I know you haven't talked with every one of their commits and asked them, hey, what's your status? What do you think?
Some.
Broadly, whenever a coach is fired, and especially in a high-profile spot, and especially with guys who we know have offers from all over the place, right? What can we expect broadly, generally, in the next couple of weeks heading into this early signing period?
First and foremost, there are going to be guys who are on that commitment list who committed to Texas A&M because they love Texas A&M. The coach played a role but wasn't like the main factor in why they committed to Texas A&M. Generally, those are the in-state or close to home recruits. I think you can dip into Louisiana and find some a lot of Texas A&M fans there. Some out-of-state guys who are big-time guys could have potentially grown up on the A&M brand, but it's like a longer shot, right? I think some of those guys who committed specifically for the allure of the program, especially as it relates to like NIL money, that kind of stuff, or that they had a good package, will have some reassessing to do, especially if another school comes in and offers them something that they feel like is comparable and has the coaches who they have a better relationship with, because you don't know who's going to be at A&M. So looking at the list, I kind of predominantly think of it as the in-state kids when I think of recruiting, because we do cover Texas high school kids who are going to Texas colleges, mostly here. I think that big fish that you want to retain on that list right now is Terry Bussey, right? Like Terry Bussey's the 5-star. He's a tremendous athlete. You could play on both sides of the ball. He had just recently committed to Texas A&M. He's been very quiet about his thoughts in regards to the coaching situation, which I respect, because Timpson is in the middle of a state championship hunt right now, and it's odd timing for some of these high school kids to have to go through this. So what will Terry Bussey do? Will he switch before National Signing Day? Will it happen quickly, or will he ride it out? And that may all depend upon the coaching situation, who it is. I personally feel like if Texas A&M were to hire, let's just throw out a name because I like to do that. Let's throw out Jeff Traylor, for instance. I think Jeff Traylor is going to have tremendous success, not only keeping the in-state kids on the commitment list, but possibly getting some other in-state names interested down the stretch. Like, would Draylon Miller be re-interested in Texas A&M, powered behind the right coaching decision? But you can't make that hire
based on 2024 class.
Well, you can't make that hire. I think you can make the hire based on that you think that they can have recruiting success, but I don't think that you can make the hire based around recruiting. I'm a guy that wants to win games. I don't care how we win the games necessarily. I like honesty and integrity. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want my team to do it clean, but I want to win.
You would rather, like, this is going to sound rude, and I don't mean it this way. Texas A&M had the number 1 recruiting class of all time a couple years ago. Jimbo Fisher hauled in the number 1 recruiting class of all time. What did it get him? It got him a pink slip.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, you're right. In the end,
I think the way to say it is that recruiting is very important, and you take that into consideration, but player development should be above that.
Well, and exactly right. And also, A&M recruited well before Jimbo Fisher.
A&M's always going to recruit well.
Always. They recruited well before Jimbo Fisher. They will recruit well after Jimbo Fisher.
The thing that I think that most A&M fans would hang their hat on, though, when they think about recruiting nowadays in relation to Jimbo Fisher, is that they're a little bit spoiled because he did land that number 1 class, right? They've come to expect that they can go out nationally and recruit these players. And I think when you toss out some of the names that have been mentioned in this coaching search, and we could be like honing in on the right names, or there could be like a name that comes from off the radar to get this job. But I think the concern from the fans is can this name, whoever replaces Jimbo Fisher, continue to recruit at the same high level nationally that Fisher and his staff did? And they may not. There may not be. They may not hire a coach that can sign the number 1 class. In the history of recruiting, the odds of that happening are a long shot, right? But what if they can put great players on the field and win games? That's what I would be more concerned about, and a product that the fans can rally behind and be passionate about. But just Sorry, long segue there.
No.
I'm looking through this list. Terry Bussey, I think, is an important name. Dalen Evans has flirted with some other schools throughout his recruitment.
Pine Tree, right?
Yeah, Pine Tree defensive lineman Dalen Evans has flirted with some other schools. He's the number 1 rated defensive tackle in our rankings. Very big commitment. He's a continuance of the dominance that they've showed in recruiting defensive linemen across the country. I think that's a very important name. On social media, he's been very pro Texas A&M.
And I do wonder if them A&M promoting Elijah Robinson to interim, and I'll editorialize here. I think whoever gets hired would be very well suited to make sure that he stays on their staff. Elijah Robinson, and make sure he doesn't run off, right? Because he's going to get his phone's going to ring. And so I think you're right. With Dalen Evans, I think Elijah Robinson may hold the keys for that.
Yeah, and you just look down that list. Like Ashton Funk, he's already solidified his recruitment, said that he's not looking at other schools. He committed to Texas A&M because he's been a Texas A&M fan. I think, Blake Ivy is one that I would put into the category just based on what I know about Blake Ivy. When he committed to Texas A&M, it was 50-50. He could have went to LSU. He could have went to Texas A&M. Now LSU is like filled up, I guess. You know what I mean? Is there still that's another thing. Is there space on the bus for some of these other programs that you were high on at that time? That's something to consider because it is November 15th. And next week, signing day packets are coming out. These colleges are sending you your letter of intent and all this stuff to they're ready to put this to bed come December, and they want to know who's on board. Miles Davis has solidified his commitment. So there's been some positive stuff come out about the A&M recruits, but some of the big fish you're just not going to know about until they decide. And in the case of a Terry Bussey, he's in the middle of a state championship run, and I respect him for not necessarily commenting on that situation at this time.
So Bussey and Evans would be the 2 names
Those
really
are the
watching.
2 at the top of my list. I'm keeping a close eye on Ty Anthony Smith because there's been some talk that he could take an official visit to Texas. He's very much friends with Draylon Miller, who decommitted, Weston Davis, who decommitted and flipped to LSU. Ty Anthony Smith has stayed solid, but does he take another official visit? I think A&M signs Ty Anthony. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think A&M is going to sign Ty Anthony Smith. Texas could make a run at him. If I'm Ty Anthony Smith, and sorry, Texas, but they got a lot of linebackers.
Yes, they do.
They got a lot of linebacker depth built up there, and I'm not saying Ty Anthony Smith can't compete with them because you know how I feel about him.
Oh yeah,
he's one of the top guys, but Texas A&M offers a better opportunity closer to home. That's just how I see it.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.